Good morning. This is John Jones, Chairman of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority. This meeting is being conducted pursuant to the notice provisions of the Oklahoma Open Meeting Act, with all participating authority members attending in person, with the exception of Mr. Todd Cohn. This meeting is also being live streamed and recorded for remote viewing. While this meeting is open and public, there's no public comment scheduled for this meeting. The time is 10 a.m. and I'm calling the July 11th, 2023 regular meeting of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority meeting to order. Jenny, please call the roll.
Mr. Will Berry.
Here.
Mr. Todd Cohn. Mr. Gene Love.
Here.
Mr. John Titsworth.
Here.
Ms. Dana Weber.
Here.
Mr. John Jones.
Here.
We have a quorum. Excuse me.
Thank you. Concerning the minutes for the regular meeting of June 6, 2023, I ask for a motion to approve those minutes that everybody has received copies of in their packets.
Move for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Love. Second, Ms. Weber, thank you. Jenny, please call the vote.
Mr. Berry.
Yes.
Mr. Love.
Yes.
Mr. Titsworth.
Yes.
Ms. Weber.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes. Moving on to items of business. The first items are from the Finance Committee. Ms. Dana Weber.
Thank you. Item number 1084 from the Information Technology Division.
Item 1084, submitted for consideration and approval of the authority, is a request to extend the term of Gannett Fleming, Task Order 7/2020, approved by the authority at the April 28, 2020 authority meeting pursuant to Agenda Item 686. This task order authorized a 3-year implementation and support of ViewWorks, an asset management cloud solution at an amount not to exceed $2,669,805. Amendment number 1 to the task order was authorized by the authority at the January 3, 2023 authority meeting pursuant to Agenda Item 1020. The amendment added to the scope of services to be performed under the task order to include but not limited to a fit gap assessment on the asset management cloud solutions used by both the authority and the Department of Transportation. All work under the task order as amended was originally scheduled to conclude by June 1, 2023. The proposed extension to the schedule is for all task order work to be concluded by December 31, 2023. No additional monetary authority is required. ODOT's participation in shared expense for services under this task order is 70% as reflected in Amendment Number 1. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have in regards to this item.
This is just a timing issue, nothing else.
It is.
Any questions? If not, the staff at OTA has recommended this item for approval, and I move for approval.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Mr. Berry. Jenny, please call the vote.
Mr. Berry.
Yes.
Mr. Love.
Yes.
Mr. Titsworth.
Yes.
Ms. Weber.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Okay, the second item, item 1085, is going to be presented by Ms. Patrice Williams, and it's from the Controller Division.
Good morning, Chairman Jones and the members of authority. I come before you today to ask for approval for the board to authorize the director to negotiate and execute contracts for the newly selected collection vendors, Harris & Harris and Linebarger Law Firm, to provide collection services for the recovery of delinquent receivables related to Pike Pass violations and plate pay. Within the tolling industry, more agencies are moving towards a multiple delinquent account vendor model. This allows for a more competitive environment and the ability to engage from a pool of vendors that meet our higher quality. So with collection practices, we conduct it in a manner that maintains a positive relationship with the public and promotes continued Turnpike usage. The two vendors that we selected, they have a proven track record within the tolling agency, and they also work with our current interoperability partners. So with that, we had a total of 13 submissions for this RFP, and through the evaluation, some vendors were disqualified for not submitting the correct security requirements, for qualifications, and some financial hardships, to name a few. So with that, I move for the authority to approve, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
So are these replacing somebody? This is an added vendor.
This is a replacement. Our previous vendor, they entered our contract early as of December of last year, and so we had not had a collection vendor since then. And so through the RFP process, this is where we're coming. And talking to some other agencies, like I said, they developed this model where they've had two in different tiers of collection vendors. So we decided that we would go and start testing this out for us, had come up with a new model. And so we decided that we would go with two for our first try and see how that works. And we're going to have our main vendor, and then we're going to have a second tier that will handle more of our aged receivables to help possibly bring in and collect some of those past debt.
Okay, so in this case, these are two, that they're not working together, they work separately?
Separate, yes,
And then we may consider others in the future?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's my understanding that the first one that we're going to use is the one that is charging the cheaper rate
Yes.
percentage.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, the money that's collected, in theory, doesn't cost the OTA anything. We're actually potentially increasing our revenue.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're getting money that we wouldn't have had before, and so they go out and work with the customer, and they get a percentage of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
No?
The Turnpike Authority has reviewed this item and recommends approval, and I therefore move for approval.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Mr. Berry. Jenny, please call the vote.
Mr. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Titsworth?
Yeah.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
The final item for approval is the payment register from the Controller Division, item number 1086.
Good morning, Chairman Jones, members of the authority. Item number 1086 is the payment register prepared by the Comptroller Division. The payment register includes all payments made by OTA in the month of May 2023. I recommend this item for approval and would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions? Hearing none, the Turnpike Authority has recommended approval, and I therefore move for approval.
Thank you, Ms. Weber. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Love. Jenny, please call the vote.
Mr. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Titsworth?
Yeah.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Weber, for doing that. Next items are engineering and construction items from that committee. Mr. Vice Chairman Will Berry.
Thank you, Chairman Jones. First item today is item 1087, will be presented by Mr. Garter.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. I'll be presenting Construction Division's items. This item contains 2 change orders and 1 supplemental agreement. Please stop me if there are any questions. The first is INMC 62E. This is a cable barrier traffic signing and striping project from milepost 0 to 16 between Hugo and Antlers. This is with Built Right Construction, change order number 3 in the amount of $30,000. This change order funds the early completion incentive as provided in the contract. The contractor reached substantial completion on day 178 out of 193 allowable B-time days in accordance with standard specification 10517. This resulted in a maximum incentive of 10 days at $3,000 per day for a total of $30,000. Next, we have JKT MC12. This was the maintenance facility in the ODOT Salt Barn and OHP building on the JKT and State Highway 3. This is with W.L. McNatt and Company, change order number 4 in the amount of negative $29,898.75. This change order establishes the final quantity for items in the original contract and those items added by supplemental agreement that deviated from the original quantity. Deductions or other adjustments associated with this contract will be identified on the final estimate. Next, we have JKT MC15. This is State Highway 74 and Memorial Road protected turnarounds. This is with Allen Contracting, supplemental agreement number 3 in the amount of $84,806.79. This supplemental agreement adds 2 new items to the contract to compensate the contractor for additional work. Alpha battery backup systems for the traffic signal control cabinets are being added, in lieu of the originally planned multi-link system, as requested by the City of Oklahoma City to meet the updated safety standards. This also adds an item to compensate for 11-inch dowel bars, which were used instead of the originally planned 9-inch dowel bars in the dowel-jointed PC pavement, due to a change in the typical section as previously discussed in change order number 3 and supplemental agreement number 2. These items include all labor, material, and equipment necessary to perform this work. This supplemental agreement also adds an item to fund the early completion incentive bonus per contract special provision 102-4 B-B19. The contractor reached substantial completion on day 187 out of 210 allowable B-time days, earning the maximum 10 days of incentive at $7,500 per day for a total of $75,000.
Are there any other questions, or are there any questions for Mr. Gardner? If not, I move that we approve this item as presented.
Second?
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Jenny, please call the vote.
Mr. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Titsworth?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Next item is item 1088, will be presented by Mr. Butler.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Good to see everyone this morning. Engineering Division has 3 items we'd like to present this morning for consideration. That's items 1088, 1089, and 1090. Item 1088, this is a materials and fabrication contract award. This is ITB 2023-07 in conjunction with SP-63B. Fabrication and delivery of 16 overhead sign structure gantries for toll equipment at various locations on the Will Rogers Turnpike as part of the conversion to cashless tolling. As you can see there, we had 2 bidders. Our low bid was Metal Pros, the amount of $608,110. This is about 7.2% under the engineer's estimate. Staff's reviewed this. We recommend approval.
Are there any questions on this item? If not, I move that we approve this item as presented.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve and a second. Jenny, please call the vote.
What's that, Mr. Love?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Titsworth?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Butler, you got the next couple of items.
Yes. Item 1089, this is a construction contract reject bid item. This is for INMC 66, cashless tolling conversion on the Indian Nation Turnpike. This is, again, as the description states, cashless tolling conversion on the Indian Nation Turnpike, including interchange work at State Highway 9, US 270, State Highway 3, as well as, excuse me, mainline toll plaza work near McAllister. Project includes work in McIntosh, Pittsburgh, and Pushmataha counties. There was only one bidder on this project. You see there it was due at construction, the amount of $31,069,532.11. Again, about 61% over the engineer's estimate. Staff believes it'd be in the best interest of the state of Oklahoma to reject this bid and rebid the project.
Why do you think that there was only one? I mean, it's just everybody busy?
You know, this, we've had several of these AT projects that we brought before you. The cost for that work, they all come in high. It's not traditional work for contractors. You know, it's not bridge and roadway type work so much. There's a lot of complications in there. It's, you know, between State Highway 9 and Antlers or State Highway 3, I think it's about 85 miles. So long distances, 4 locations. It's a rural area on the Indian Nation Turnpike, and there's just not a lot of, you know, contractors that can maybe handle that capacity of work. And again, there's other work out there more related to road and bridge that's more appealing to some of those contractors. So we'd like to recommend reject bid this morning. Go back, take a hard look at the bid tabs, look at the plans, come up with some ideas on how we can reduce the cost of this bid and improve the bid and maybe even gain more bidders next go around.
Is it possible that there's a different type of bidder that would be more of an expert in this that could either complement or do this other than our traditional?
Yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of our contractors that bid ODOT and OTA work, it's kind of the same group, if you will. You know, they know our spec book and do that work for us on a regular basis. So, you know, we put the bids out there, we put the advertisement out. We don't necessarily reach out to anybody to bid a project. It's just whoever comes to the table with the bid. But so far, it's been, for these AET projects, there's just been a few different contractors that seem to be interested in the work.
Are there any more questions for this item? No. If not, I move that we approve this item as presented.
You mean rejected as presented?
Well, I approve the rejection of this item as presented.
Is this a yes or a no? Second the motion.
We have a motion and a second, so a yes vote will be to reject the bid as presented and approve the item as a rejection of the bid. Jenny, please call the vote.
I'll make sure to note that in the minutes clearly. Mr. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Titsworth?
Yeah.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yeah, last item for engineering is item 1090. This is task order modification for an engineering services contract. This is for SP 63, our consultant's HNTB, modification number 2 for cashless tolling conversion on the Turner Turnpike and the Will Rogers Turnpike. This task order modification will provide additional engineering services to include electrical design to accommodate cashless tolling equipment, 13 sites on the Turner Turnpike and 16 sites on the Will Rogers Turnpike. Also will remove vehicle classification, otherwise known as IVUS, which involves omitting the fiber reinforced pavement reconstruction at all locations except for the westbound exit ramp at the Veneta interchange on the Will Rogers Turnpike. The amount due under this task order modification number 2 shall not exceed $101,819, and the revised task order amounts are not to exceed $496,202.78. Staff's reviewed this and recommends approval.
Any questions for Mr. Butler?
So why would we remove IVUS every place except the westbound exit ramp at Veneta?
When you install the IVUS, there's a lot to it. You've got to tear out some of the concrete. You've got to put in clean concrete that won't interfere with loops for the IVUS, loop system, triggering system. So it's an expensive endeavor at each location. And at some point, there's just not enough vehicles. And I'm certainly not an expert on the IVUS, but at
So
some
we just
point,
didn't
there's
see the
not
need to
enough
remove it,
return on investment to make the installation. So we had it in the plans. It was decided that the ROI wouldn't meet, and so through this modification, we're pulling those out, except for a few locations. Good question.
Any more questions? If not, I move that we approve this item as presented.
Second the motion.
We have a motion to approve and a second from Mr. Love. Jenny, please call the vote.
Mr. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Titsworth?
Yeah.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Next item is item 1091 that will be presented by Mr. Gore.
Good morning. Today, present item 1091. This is declare surplus property and authorize the director to sell, lease, or otherwise dispose of the same. The following parcels consistent of approximate acres and locations identified below in the attachment were previously acquired by the authority. A staff review of the properties was conducted and has been determined that a portion of the described parcels on approximate acreage identified was acquired as an unoccupied remnant and is not needed for any construction or maintenance needs of the Turnpike system. Based on that determination, the staff recommends the authority consider and vote to declare the attached described parcels to be surplus and authorize the director to obtain a survey, appraisal, sell, lease, or otherwise dispose of the property identified, including land swap, to other properties needed for the Turnpike system. And then you'll see in the attachment, there are a total of 29 parcels. We have been routinely going through, looking through every corridor on our system trying to identify all these surplus properties heavily. This includes the Cimarron, the Creek, and Muskogee. There are other properties we are currently reviewing as well and continuing to dispose of those appropriately and going through this appropriate review process. And I'm happy to answer any questions on any particular parcel you'd like, or any other questions you may have.
I have a general question. It appears on some of these maps that some of these parcels that are, appear to be on the Creek Turnpike are in or around or adjacent to what appears to be established neighborhoods, and it looks like the potential value of that property might be increased since perhaps the time it was acquired. I know previously when we talked about surplus property, we've used various vehicles, so to speak, to dispose of, sell, and one of the deals we've done were auctions. Do you know if we're looking at using the auction route on some of these residential adjacent properties? To me, that would be something we need to consider very highly, because I think there would be high demand for those.
Yes, after we go through and verify the ones that have to do a direct offer because they're sole budding landowners, the other ones we'll look at heavily as for a public auction and see what's best marketable scenario for those. And I agree, most of these will probably be through the public auction process.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Gore? If not, I move that we approve this item as presented.
Second motion.
We have a motion to approve, and we have a second from Mr. Love. Jenny, please call the vote.
Mr. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Titsworth?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Next item is, or next couple of items are item 1092, that will be presented by Mr. Calcom.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the authority. 1092 is a purchase of 39 in-car camera systems for the OHP 2022 fleet. Submitted for consideration of the authority is a request that the following items be approved for purchase utilizing state contract SW 1053M. Motorola Solutions is the contractor. The first item is 39 extended warranties for $30,225, followed by 39 two video equipment M500 in-car systems for $195,000, 39 L-Cloud software hosting systems at $39,000, and 39 antennas for $8,541, and 39 MP70 Pro routers for $28,080, and finally 39 AL support systems at $18,720, bringing a grand total of $319,566.
Anyone have any questions?
Mark, I had a quick question. Are these replacing something that we've already had before in these vehicles?
These were actually 2022 purchases that were delayed receiving those.
Okay,
And these are to equip those vehicles.
okay.
As I recall, this was an issue because of the shortage of vehicles available.
That is correct.
So we're finally getting caught up.
Well, we're starting to, seeing some progress. Okay. Item 1093 is the purchase of 35 highway patrol vehicles for the 2023 fleet replacement.
Mark?
Hey, Mark, I
Oh,
think we need
I'm
to
sorry, you need to
approve
vote. I'm sorry.
item 1092. Are there any other questions for Mark?
One other thought I had while I was standing here, are we going to have any delays in getting this equipment? Do you know of?
We anticipate
Okay. Go ahead.
If no further questions, I move that we approve this item as presented.
Second motion.
We have a motion to approve and a second from Mr. Love. Jenny, please call the vote.
Mr. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Titsworth?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Item 1093.
All right, 1093 is the purchase of 35 highway patrol vehicles for the 2023 fleet replacement. Submitted for consideration of the authority is a request for the following items be approved for purchase utilizing state contract SW0035. Bob Howard Chrysler Jeep and Dodge is the vendor. The first item there is 33 2023 Dodge Durango Black all-wheel drive police pursuit SUVs. That amount is $1,397,781. One 2023 Dodge Durango white in color all-wheel drive police pursuit SUV for $42,357. And the final is one 2023 Dodge Durango white all-wheel drive pursuit or police pursuit SUV for the major, $42,883, bringing the total to $1,483,021. Be happy to answer any questions.
I kind of lose track of time sometimes, Mark. We've already purchased some vehicles very first thing this year, right?
Yes,
I thought so. I thought I remembered that.
that was from the previous year.
Yeah, okay.
Gets a little confusing, but, and then that's only complicated by the delays from the manufacturer.
Right, good.
Are there any more questions? If not, I move that we approve this item as presented.
Second the motion.
We have a motion to approve and a second from Mr. Love. Jenny, please call the vote.
Mr. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Titsworth?
Yeah.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Item 1094.
Okay. The purchase of 35 in-car camera systems for the previously mentioned 2023 fleet replacement vehicles. Submitted for consideration of the authorities a request that the following items be approved for purchase utilizing state contract SW1053M. Again, the contractor is Motorola Solutions for 35 5-year extended warranties, $27,125. 35 video equipment M500 in-car systems at an amount of $175,000. 35 L-Cloud software systems, $35,000. And 35 AL support systems, $16,800. And 35 antennas at $7,665. And finally, 35 MP70s at $25,200, bringing the total to $286,790. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? If not, I move that we approve this item as presented.
Second the motion.
We have a motion to approve and a second from Mr. Love. Jenny, please call the vote.
Mr. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Titsworth?
Yeah.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes. Thank you, Will. The next item are the reports section. The first one is the Highway Patrol Report, Major Candidate. Good morning.
Mr. Chairman, members of the authority, Secretary Gatz, Director E. Kelly. For the month of May, Turnpike troopers made 4,854 violator contacts and assisted 819 motorists. We investigated 161 motor vehicle collisions and worked 1,005 shifts. We averaged 164 miles per shift for a total of just over 164,000 miles driven. We did have 2 fatalities during the month, one on the Indian Nation and one on the Creek Turnpike. Both of those were situations where the vehicles exited the roadway. I've included specific information on the commercial motor vehicle enforcement, air traffic enforcement, aircraft traffic enforcement. We don't do air traffic stuff. Toll enforcement, motorcycle enforcement, collision reduction, and that's all included in the report. Before any questions, I'd like to update you on the academy. The cadets have moved from their residential training. We graduated 19 cadets. Yesterday, they started their field training. So they'll be placed with a trooper and get some basically on-the-job experience. That'll go through October 1st. As always, I want to thank the authority for their continued support for the academy and our vehicles and equipment, and we appreciate the ongoing relationship. So thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Any
The one
questions?
fatality was leaving the roadway at a high speed and lost control. The other one, is it possible, was that one, do we know anything about, was that a falling asleep or a health issue or something?
I don't know the specific details on that. I can get that for you, but yeah, I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, Major.
Thank you again.
Our next report is the Consulting Engineers Report. Mr. Jimmy Sparks.
Morning, Chairman Jones, members of the authority, Secretary Gatz. Concerning the trust requirements, we are compiling the new inspection data in preparation of our final report due to OTA staff on October 1st. So over the next few months, be sharing some of the new rating information that we've gathered and see how that compares year over year, namely for our roadways and bridges. In June, Olson's engineers checked 4 overloads for travel in the system, and that number was down month to month, but it's nearly 100 special loads year to date that we have checked for travel in the Turnpike system. No special inspections for the month of June. Work did begin yesterday on OTA project T-ER-037, which is replacing the outside beams in the eastbound direction of the Chandler Interchange Bridge. So upon completion of that, or when the beams are set, we will get out and measure and see what our new clearance is for that bridge that is currently posted at, measures about 14.4, posted at 14.1. So we'll see what the new beams get. And then that contract will be followed by project T-MC-141. That's the secondary contract to raise the entire bridge. So that's expected to have bids open in October. In response to a question last month about vertical clearances, I went back and looked and was able to find it. We have 8 Turnpike under bridges, and that's where traffic travels under a bridge, that are less than 15 feet. 4 of those are on the Turner, the other 4 on the Will Rogers. The 4 on the Will Rogers all measure right at 15. They're 14.11. And then by our records, we also have 4 Turnpike over bridges where the clearance of a roadway underneath is less than 15 feet. 3 of those are on the Turner and 1 is on the H.E. Bailey, and all of those measure at least 14.6 or higher. So in response to, I think, a question by Mr. Cohn, I want to follow up there. Our capital plan project summaries in our monthly report, as always. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, the good thing is we're not talking about any new bridge strikes.
Yes. Yeah.
Not any further questions? Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you.
Next report is the trustee report. Ms. Singleton. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, board members. As bond trustee to the authority, all monthly debt service transfers were made for the semi-annual payments due to the bondholders as required by the trust agreement. The semi-annual interest payments to the bondholders were made on July 1 and also required by the trust agreement. To our knowledge, all other requirements set forth in the trust agreement have been satisfied. Questions of my report?
Any questions? Thank you, Ms. Singleton.
Thank you.
The next report are the operating results and financial reports. Ms. Smith. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Jones, Secretary Gatz, members of the authority. You've all received your report for May prepared by the Comptroller Division, and heavy traffic continues strong on our system, and we're outpacing budgeted projections by slightly under 1%. But the real news is we continue to be in a strong financial position, and I'm happy to report that on June 30th, the authority paid off the $50 million line of credit that we entered into July 1st of 2020. And we paid that out of the general fund. As you might recall, this line of credit was designed to give the authority more flexibility during a very difficult and historic period of time. The board passed an agenda item on March 31st of 2020 that would give us the ability to negotiate for a line of credit without being really certain that it was going to be necessary. As you know, COVID-19's pandemic began significantly impacting the world's economy by mid-March of 2020 with no foreseeable end in sight. And by March 23rd, the authority was already fielding questions from all 3 rating agencies about any measures taken to mitigate these effects. And by the end of April, the Turnpike system was seeing 55% drops in commuter traffic and overall traffic drops of 42%, leading to an alarming revenue drop of 34%. So with that grim reality, the authority began the job of accessing the market early while banks still had capital available. With the authority's excellent credit, staff negotiated a line of credit with J.P. Morgan that closed on July 1st of 2020 at a very competitive rate of 2.274%. 100% of those proceeds were deposited into the Reserve Maintenance Fund. As was discussed last month, the Reserve Maintenance Fund deposit is an amount specified by the third-party engineer, in our case, Olson and Associates, on behalf of the bondholders for the purpose of maintaining the Turnpike system in good repair. By depositing 100% of the proceeds, the authority benefited in two ways for its bondholders. First, it allowed the authority to avoid funding reserve maintenance out of operating revenues, thereby creating more general fund cash over time. And as you know, the general fund can be used for any lawful purpose of the authority. Secondly, this allowed the authority to meet its most difficult debt service ratio because the reserve maintenance fund would not be funded from toll revenues or operations. This ratio, which was one of the ratios discussed last month, is basically net revenues, which is total revenues less O&M, divided by 105% of all debt plus reserve maintenance deposits paid out of operations. This ratio is required to be maintained at 1.0. These loan proceeds allowed the authority to delay funding reserve maintenance deposits out of operations from July 2020 through March of 2022. This is why you didn't see reserve maintenance deposits shown in Exhibit 1 of the operations report. Exhibit 1 illustrates the flow-through for each of those periods. Once those proceeds were depleted, reserve maintenance deposits resumed being funded from operations in April of 2022. So there's good debt and there's bad debt. This line of credit represents good debt. It was for a short time. It did its job at a very competitive rate. It not only allowed us to protect our bondholders, but it also allowed us to protect our patrons. By continuing to fund reserve maintenance, we not only remained in compliance with our trust indenture and therefore our bondholders, but we also kept our roads well-maintained and safe. Safety is such an important factor for us. And we had to keep them safe to prepare those patrons for coming back into the world once they decided it was safe to come out. Hindsight being 2020, the authority had no way of knowing that the Turnpike system would be one of the fastest entities in the country to recover from the effects of COVID-19. Some of that recovery can be attributed to the governor and his guidelines, wherein he put in certain measures to open up the government safely. Additionally, with 3 of the Turnpike system roads making up the I-44 corridor and carrying significant truck traffic, the OTA fared much better than other tolling agencies that rely so heavily on commuter traffic, since commuters came back so much later. That truck traffic that continued to deliver goods throughout the country during that time was a key factor in OTA's quick recovery. Finally, the OTA has long maintained fiscally responsible policies and approaches to its borrowings, which this is no different, which has allowed it to achieve and maintain the high bond ratings of AA3 by Moody's and AA- by Standard & Poor's and Fitch, respectively. Among the reasons cited by the credit rating agencies for OTA strong ratings is its long history of strong management of operations. This line of credit is just another example of that strong management. OTA's strong management was also cited during the Great Recession brought on by the 2008-2009 financial crisis. In that particular case, we had truck traffic drop from 2008, and it did not recover to 2008 levels until 2014. So OTA avoided any downgrade of its bond ratings from the rating agencies, and these credit ratings still place the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority among the highest rated toll roads in the nation. And I'll take any questions.
I'd just like to comment. First of all, excellent report, great summary. I really appreciate, even though we've heard it all or knew it all, sort of, it's still really nice to have that summarized there. As a business person, I think all of us know that there is nothing more important than making sure that those who lend you money are always happy and that you never violate a covenant. So I just want to compliment those of you in the Turnpike Authority who've worked so diligently to make sure that we never do that. And the way you've creatively and thoughtfully approached everything to make sure that we are well protected. So thank you.
Thank you, and we have good consultants that really help us, like Jimmy Sparks from Olson and Mike Newman from Hilltop.
You know, Wendy, we've mentioned this before too. You know, back during COVID when we had our revenues drop, one thing you and Julie and the staff did was cut way back on our expenses to more than compensate for our revenue loss. So y'all just continue doing an incredible job.
Well, and that really, you know, staff managed to really help that as well, because we
Yeah.
did have the general fund available to pay this loan back. And so that's why I really wanted to report that today.
Well, and we've continued to keep our expenses very, very low. Y'all are doing a great job. Great report, Wendy. In fact, if you have any extra time, maybe you can get involved in PR too, because you're really good at this.
Wow. Lisa, do you have a job for me?
You
All
may
right,
have
thank you.
You may have an extra ally, Lisa.
Thank you.
Very, very good. Thank you. Our next report is the Director's Report. Secretary Gatz.
Mr. Chairman, board members, got a couple things I want to touch on this morning, and one is the efforts of the Turnpike Authority in the Tulsa area. And I think we've got a video that we're going to show. As you know, on June the 17th, severe storms moved through the Tulsa area with some straight line winds that in some locations were in excess of 100 miles an hour. OTA maintenance forces joined ODOT crews from across the state as engaged by the Office of Emergency Management and at the request of the city of Tulsa to come provide some assistance because they had miles and miles and miles of both residential and arterial streets that were closed because of debris. So they were having difficulties rendering any type of assistance to their citizenry. The Turnpike Authority again and the Department of Transportation responded as we always do. I want to thank Mark and his team and our maintenance men and women that showed up without hesitation for their efforts. And what they've done through June through last week was provided more than 6,600 man hours. So boots on the ground. We've had up to 60 people on the site of this damage every day. We've removed about 1,209 truckloads of debris as of the end of the day on Monday. And additionally, the Turnpike Authority has helped the utility companies and especially PSO in their efforts to restore power with a unique focus on the Gilcrease Expressway, which we provided a complete closure for several hours while they repaired some major power lines. OTA crews are wrapping up our operations as of Monday, and now the City of Tulsa and their contracts through FEMA will come in and finish the cleanup. But most importantly, the Turnpike Authority helped the city in a time of great need where, again, they didn't have any resources available to them to react that quickly. To give you an idea of the magnitude of this, and if you're in the Oklahoma City metropolitan area, you didn't, I don't think, had a clear understanding of the level of damage that the Tulsa area experienced, and not just in Tulsa, but Creek County, Sand Springs, and other locations. But I've seen many ice storms, which is typically where you see major tree damage. And all the way back to 2007, where we had an ice storm in the Tulsa area that was significant. And I don't know that I've ever seen damage at the level that I saw it in Tulsa. So, again, I want to appreciate Mark and the maintenance crews for their, number one, their volunteerism, because again, they responded, they lined up to respond, knowing full well that because they're spending time helping with this effort, they're 2 weeks behind now on work that they have, they're going to have to go back and catch up on. So again, the selflessness of their activities and their willingness to go and be away from their families at some locations, and again join with ODOT to provide assistance in a time of great need should not go unnoticed nor unappreciated. And again, I just want to pass that along, how thankful we are for the folks that we get to work with every day and for what they do for the state of Oklahoma. So again, congratulations, and very much appreciate their assistance.
I'd just like to comment, Tim, as somebody who lives in the heart of what was hit by this storm, that their efforts and their success in contributing to the cleanup is really appreciated. I agree with you, the 2007 ice storm we thought was the worst thing that ever hit Tulsa. I think this was even worse. So thank you to everybody for what they did, Mark and your team, because it really did make a big difference.
Thank you. I also want to echo, on our line of credit debt payment, the acknowledgement of the work of Wendy and, our financial advisor team and everybody that makes the Turnpike Authority what it is on the financial side. Because again, the pandemic, as it began to materialize, and more importantly, as we began to understand the magnitude of what it was. And again, the further we get away from it, the more maybe foggy that memory gets. But everything that we did during that time period was predicated on an incredible sense of urgency and an incredible sense of uncertainty. So again, kudos to Wendy for having the foresight to anticipate some challenges that we were going to experience, react to it, and position the Turnpike Authority to be able to weather that extremely challenging financial time. And again, thanks to this board for supporting those activities and helping us get through it. And here we sit today, repaying the debt. That again, I love Wendy's analogy of good debt, bad debt. This was timely and absolutely necessary, and we're fulfilling our responsibility. So again, that didn't happen by accident. That took a lot of effort on a lot of people's part, and I very much appreciate the board's acknowledgement of that. And again, thanks to Wendy and her team. Also want to recognize the efforts, and I'll give Todd Gore a lot of credit for this, because the Turnpike Authority, this board in most cases didn't have any responsibility for procuring some of the property that we've identified as surplus. It's been on the books for a long time, and it should not have been. When we finish a project where we've acquired property and we have surplus parcels, we need to do everything that we can to expediently get those parcels back into private hands and back on the tax rolls. And Todd and his team have done a good job at the request of the board and the direction of Joe and others of taking a hard look at our network and identifying where these parcels exist, and then more importantly, having a clear understanding of what it's going to take to get them back to the private sector, back into private hands. So again, more than 208 acres, on the list today. Lots more than that across, the last few years. And again, I want to really congratulate Todd and his team for the work that they've done across the entire network. Today this focus was primarily on the Cimarron, the Creek, and the Muskogee, but they're doing a good job across the whole network, and that is exactly what we should be doing. So again, congratulations to Todd, and appreciate their efforts. At this point, I want to acknowledge and call up Amber McIntyre, who's with the Natural Resources Program, to talk a little bit about some recent efforts the Turnpike Authority has been involved in for pollinator preservation along the Indian Nations Turnpike. So Amber, if you'd come up, and I think we've got a PowerPoint that Amber's going to provide too.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board, Secretary Gatz, Deputy E. Kelly. Thank you for inviting me here today to speak about a unique Oklahoma species. The frosted elfin is a small gossamer wing butterfly. They can be found across the eastern United States, but are rare throughout most of their range, especially in Oklahoma, which is the western edge of where they can be found. Because of their rarity and recent declines in known populations, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is investigating this species to determine if it should be protected under the Endangered Species Act. Previously, only 2 populations were known to historically occur in Oklahoma, but due to ongoing research, we now know of many more locations, as is illustrated on the provided map. Evaluating if this species warrants federal protection under the Endangered Species Act is challenging. The butterfly is both rare and elusive. They are tiny, with a wingspan of only an inch, and have a dusky brownish gray coloration that blends into the background and makes them difficult to find, even at locations with known populations. The frosted elfin relies on host plants to complete its life cycle. In Oklahoma, frosted elfin caterpillars have been found on yellow, wild indigo, but elsewhere, like in Arkansas, the butterfly is hosted on Natal's wild indigo. These butterflies can be found in oak and pine woodlands, but are closely tied to their host plant of wild indigo. While the adults feed on a variety of flowering plants, they are rarely encountered more than 20 yards from a stand of indigo. So, if researchers can locate host plants, they can find the butterflies and learn about Oklahoma's populations. One such location was found along the Indian Nation Turnpike and is the only known frosted elfin site for Pittsburgh County. The frosted elfin completes its entire life cycle. I'm going to go back just one more so you can see the life cycle if they'll let me. The frosted elfin completes its entire life cycle in 1 year. Adults fly in early spring, mate, and lay eggs on host plants. Larvae go through 4 instars and pupate for most of the year on or near host plants in the leaf litter or beneath the soil surface. Once the Pittsburgh County location was discovered, researchers at the Oklahoma Biological Survey inquired if the Turnpike Authority would be willing to adjust their mowing schedules at this location. Not mowing between March and early to mid-June would protect the butterfly in consideration of its life cycle. I'm very happy to report that the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority was very willing to make adjustments. Deputy Director E. Kelly and Chief Engineer T.J. Dill communicated the importance of this commitment to the necessary personnel within OTA, and by doing so, has helped aid in the conservation of a rare Oklahoma butterfly. More information about the Oklahoma Frosted Elfin Project can be found at the Oklahoma Natural Heritage Inventory website, but I would be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amber, and again, it's really gratifying for the Turnpike Authority to be able to assist in a conservation effort, and a preservation effort like this. And thanks to Amber and her folks for bringing this to our attention. And it's something the Turnpike Authority, and I think for that matter, the Department of Transportation do on a regular basis, not because we have to, but because it's the right thing to do. And again, I think we look to partner with our resource agencies always and find ways to be able to bring a focus where a focus is needed in the interest of preserving and conservation. So talk just a little bit about cable barrier. And I think we've got a graphic that we're going to show. Today's approval of an early completion incentive for a cable barrier project on the Indian Nation Turnpike provides an opportunity to give you an update and talk a little bit about the criticality of cable barrier across our network. Oklahoma Turnpike Authority has installed 241 miles of cable barrier to prevent crossover collisions since 2012. We have a project underway on the Cherokee Turnpike to install cable along all 32 miles of that route, with 3 more projects planned on the Indian Nation and the Cimarron Turnpike. By 2024, all 12 turnpikes will have either concrete barrier or cable barrier systems installed across the entire network. We know this life-saving system works based on the number of repairs made on existing cable barrier from the more than 2,000 hits on 8 turnpikes since 2012. And acknowledge Mr. Love because, you know, one of his focus areas, certainly during my tenure and as being part of the Turnpike Authority, has been on cable barrier and positive barrier across the network because of the reality, which is these save lives. Every one of those cable barrier hits, more than 2,000, had the potential to be a horrific crossover accident. And again, we know just by the drop in fatality accidents that we've had due to crossovers, that cable makes a difference. So again, that life-saving treatment helps. We want to remind motorists to always be attentive. You know, distracted driving is one of the most challenging safety factors that we deal with today. And, you know, you've got to, as we consider speed limits, as an example, you know, that black and white posted speed limit is the acceptable speed, safe, for a clear, dry day. And it's up to us as individual drivers to make adjustments. Because again, you know, that black and white posted speed limit is 75 or 80 on a clear, dry day. If it's raining, as it was this morning, you need to make adjustments to keep yourself and the folks around you safe. So we rely on drivers to take that responsibility and always remain vigilant when they're behind the wheel and be prepared for the unexpected. One of the things that we see that causes these cable barrier hits is potential distraction, where they drop a wheel off the shoulder, drift off the shoulder. And again, it's worth emphasizing that if that happens, you still have recovery opportunity if you don't panic and you know how to handle that situation, and you just slow down and steer yourself back onto the road rather than having a lane departure into the cable. Even though we've put it there, we'd prefer that you not have to encounter it. So a little bit of training, a little bit of dedication to your responsibility as a driver goes a long ways. And then leave plenty of space. I don't know about the rest of the Turnpike Authority Board, but in my travels every day, it seems like folks have a greater tolerance to drive a whole lot closer together rather than leaving a little bit of a buffer zone between you and the car in front of you. So I think that giving a little extra space to provide some longer stopping distance, certainly that's something that we want to emphasize for our commercial vehicle partners that are out there traveling, is to provide plenty of space. And, you know, it takes all of us working together. It takes the enforcement of the Turnpike or of our OHP partners. It takes the Turnpike Authority providing the safest facilities that we can provide, and it takes the traveling public all working together to create a safe environment out there. And most importantly, as drivers, we need to take responsibility for buckling our seatbelts. Because again, Oklahoma experiences more than 700 fatalities, unfortunately, across the highway and transportation system just about every year. And a good part of those fatalities occur where seatbelts were not in use. And Oklahoma, that's an area we've got to work on. And we really need to support that fact. Is your number one line of defense as a driver is to buckle that seatbelt. And we can give you the safest highway we can. And if you're not buckled in, you're at a very high risk.
What's the current percentage, like 74% or something like that?
We're about 85%
85%.
seatbelt use, but that ranks us as a low-tier state. So we're going to be
I can
maybe
remember when it was
45th.
74, so I mean, we're making a little progress, but we need to make a lot more. It's, you know, when we look at the statistics that show that almost every fatality we have on the system is somebody not wearing a seatbelt, so pretty tragic.
And we have we've got a primary seatbelt law, but we should not have to worry about the threat of a ticket to buckle our seatbelts. That's just, you know, the law that you can't overcome is the law of inertia. And if you're in a moving vehicle and you come to an abrupt stop, which nobody intends to ever be in a collision when they leave the house, but they happen every day. If you're not buckled in, you're about 50% more likely to be a severe injury or, worst case, a fatality. So, again, I ask everybody to talk about that to every opportunity you have, friends, neighbors, anybody, and encourage them to buckle their seatbelt, because that'll make a difference in our fatality rates here in the state of Oklahoma and keep our system safer. So, with that, Mr. Chairman, I would stand for any questions that the Turnpike Authority Board might have of me.
Any questions? Thank you, sir. Secretary Gatz. Good report. That concludes our agenda items for today's meeting of July 11th. I move that we adjourn to our next scheduled meeting of Tuesday, August 1st, 2023 at 10 o'clock. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thanks, Ms. Weber. Jenny, please call the vote.
Mr. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Titsworth?
Yeah.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes. We're adjourned.